Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock, so we're going to get started. So welcome, everyone, to our session on cleaning for healthy childcare, brought to you by Women for a Healthy Environment and the Philadelphia Regional Center for Children's Environmental Health. My name is Picola, and I am the Director of Healthy Learning at Women for a Healthy Environment, and I'll be your moderator today. So today we have two esteemed speakers joining us. First, we will hear from Dr. Marilyn Howarth from the Philadelphia Regional Center for Children's Environmental Health, followed by Paige Kizior, M.Ed. from Women for a Healthy Environment. They will guide us through understanding the impacts of cleaning products on children's health and introduce us to safer, greener cleaning practices. So first, let me introduce Dr. Howarth. She is an occupational environmental medicine physician with over 25 years of experience. She serves as Deputy Director of Philadelphia's Regional Center for Children's Environmental Health, where she leads initiatives to improve children's environmental health. She also directs the Community Engagement Corps at the Center of Excellence in Environmental Toxicology, working with researchers, regulators, legislators, and communities to reduce environmental risks. Today, she will discuss how cleaning products can impact children's health. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Howarth.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. Let me just share my screen. All right. Let me just take 1 minute and tell you a little bit about the NIH's collaborative centers. Our center, the Philadelphia Regional Center for Children's Environmental Health, is one of these centers that you see pictured here on the slide, all part of the National Institute of Health. They are funded by the National Institute of Health, specifically the part of the NIH that is responsible for environmental health. So when we say environmental health, we're really talking about everything that's around us, in our homes, in our workplaces, in educational places that we go to, in stores, everywhere really. And there are lots of things that we'll talk about in just a minute that we need to kind of know about in order to understand whether or not our health may be impacted. Our particular center here in Philadelphia focuses really on our region, not just Philadelphia, but the region. And we think mostly about lead exposure, air pollution, asthma, endocrine disrupting chemicals, and we're going to talk more about those in just a minute, and climate change. And through those areas of focus, we do a number of translational programs. We offer money in the way of pilot projects. We empower researchers and community groups to work on these problems together. And so part of what we're doing here today is making sure that each of you is aware of us as a resource, and you should feel free to reach out to us if we can help you in any way with any kind of environmental questions that you have. Remember I said that environment really encompasses everything? Well, it's really true. There are so many kinds of exposures that we might encounter in our environment, from water to food that may have impurities or may not be the healthiest, air pollution from transportation sources and industry, and also hydraulic fracturing. You may have heard of that. That can contaminate groundwater and air in the region. And of course, then there are those disasters. I mean, we've been hearing a lot about the wildfires in California, and sometimes we too have experienced that smoke here in our region. But obviously, if you have a train derailment, there can be exposure to chemicals. And so recognizing that over the course of our lifetime, we are exposed to many things, it really makes sense to pay attention and try to protect ourselves from the things that we encounter every day. And so how do we get exposed to various things in our environment? Well, we can breathe them in, we can eat them or drink them, or we can touch them. And by touching them, sometimes get them on our skin, and that alone could be an exposure. Or sometimes when you get things on your skin, you actually can then put it in your mouth and eat it. Obviously, kids do this more than adults, but we've been known to do things like bite our nails and smoke and do a number of other things that put our fingers into our mouths. So in general, it is a good idea to reduce exposure to hazards as much as possible. And that's why we're talking about cleaning products and in the childcare environment today, because um, people often view cleaning products as being just part of life and not really something that they focus on. So why are we so focused on the childcare environment? Well, it's because children are more vulnerable to environmental hazards. They are rapidly growing and developing compared to adults. They eat more per body weight than adults do. In fact, kids 1 to 5 eat three to five times as much as adults do per body weight. They drink more water per body weight, so it matters that the water is also clean. They have an increased respiratory rate, partly because they run around constantly, but also because they just breathe in more per body weight than adults do. And so they breathe in more of what's in the air. So if we're using a cleaning product or anything else that we put in the air, those children will breathe in more of that than they would if they were adults even. And the kinds of problems that can be encountered by children in terms of environmental hazards there are a number of developmental problems that they can experience. So brain development can be impaired, bone, endocrine, the reproductive organs themselves can be affected, even though you don't normally think of children using their reproductive organs. They are still available to be affected if there's an exposure. And children are still developing during infancy and childhood. All of these organs are still developing. The first few years after birth are the most vulnerable. In particular, liver and kidneys really aren't functioning normally. They are the organs that actually clear out toxicants from our system as we become exposed to them. And they're not really at their best in early childhood. What's more, any exposures that children might have, they have many, many decades to see effects. So something that doesn't affect you immediately, but might have an effect later in life, they have a lot of years to experience that. We know that there are a number of common illnesses that children get. There are those respiratory infections, viruses like the common cold, flu, RSV, or even COVID, and bacterial infections like strep throat and some forms of conjunctivitis. And we know that part of our cleaning and sanitation is geared toward protecting the transmission of those kinds of bacterial and viral infections. And it should be, and that's an important part of what we'll talk about today. But in addition, those cleaning products themselves can interfere or exacerbate asthma, bronchitis, allergy, and also disrupt development. So while we're focused on making sure we do good cleaning and disinfecting, we also need to balance that with not worsening underlying conditions that children may have or just their normal development. And that's in part what we'd like to talk about today. But there are health effects from environmental exposures that are really pretty far reaching. They go from asthma and lung disease, which seems like that might be kind of obvious because of lung inhalation or breathing, but all the way to cancers and autism and neurologic disorders. So the kinds of principles that we'll talk about today really will serve you well in other areas too. So let's look at asthma as a very common condition that children get. And all of these bubbles around that central asthma diagnosis are all things that have the opportunity to affect children and affect asthma and can cause an asthma attack. Whether a child has asthma already, there are certainly triggers and can cause an asthma attack. If a child does not have asthma, repeated exposure to some of these things, and in particular to these things in combination, has been shown to cause asthma as well in someone who doesn't already have it. So let's start with hazardous air pollutants. There are all kinds of things we find in our air, from particulates to hazardous air pollutants, and chemicals come from industry and traffic. And one of the things you can do about that is to know what the air quality index says. And so if we have a day of orange, let's say, that is unhealthy for sensitive groups, the EPA puts this air quality index out every day, then that's a day that someone with asthma is already a bit at risk because they are part of that sensitive group. Now, what about if in their home they have smokers? And so, excuse me, they're exposed to smoking, and they might have cockroach allergens also at home. This could be an issue. What about if in their childcare center there is mold in a basement area or another area of the building or at home? All of these things can add together, as well as pollen. And then we think about scented products. Well, if you listen to TV or the radio, uh, advertisers would have you believe that you are not having a clean house or a clean child care center unless you're constantly spraying things all over it. You know, perfumed items, Febreze in the carpeting, in the on the fabrics, on in the air, and that is just untrue. All of these things have fragrances, and you might even like the fragrance. It might be something you'd enjoy. On the other hand, you should know that the vast majority of these fragrances have health implications, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. Then there's the actual cleaning products, like the products you might use on the toilet or the sink or the floor. And these are things that can contain harsh chemicals. So imagine a child with asthma exposed to all of these things in the same day. That is really a recipe for an asthma exacerbation. Let's take a moment now, and I'd like to ask you all to think about what are some cleaning products and personal care products that are scented that people use. Doesn't have to be in the childcare environment, anywhere. What are some examples? There aren't very many people here, so just speak them out. You don't have to raise your hands.
They will have to write them in the chat. So we have one
Okay.
person, they said deodorant. I could read them as they type them.
Oh, please. Okay, good. Sorry, didn't know that rule.
No problem. Yes, please type your answer. So what are some cleaning products? We have Lysol, lotions, bleach, hand soap, Febreze.
Great, all great items. What about some personal care
Fabulous.
other than the deodorant?
We have Mr. Clean, hand disinfectant. Let's see where else. Perfume.
Don't forget shampoo, conditioner, other products people may put on their hair like hairspray. Someone mentioned deodorant, but all kinds of soap, hand soap, liquid soap, regular soaps. All of these things can be scented and perfumed, and some of those scents can actually be quite hazardous. Good. So we're all on the same page, thinking about cleaning products, thinking about personal care products. There was a study done looking at, in a city, all of the volatile chemicals. Now, a volatile chemical is any chemical that at room temperature gets into the air a lot. It may start out as a liquid, and I think perfume is really a good example of that. We put it on as a liquid, but very quickly it becomes something in the gaseous form, so we can smell it. And these volatile chemicals are often the fragrances and a lot of other things that are in cleaning products and personal care products. But what was surprising here is when they looked at all of the emissions in a city, you can see that cleaning agents and personal care products were right up there in terms of amount with pesticides and coatings like paints and inks and adhesives. I mean, I don't know about you, but previously I would think that there might be more of those kinds of things around in our environment. But in fact, there are so many cleaning agents and personal care products that we use that the sheer amount actually ends up being, impressively large. And so what are the health impacts of these volatile chemicals? Irritation of the mucous membranes. And so that's the nose, the throat, the eyes. If you have a breathing condition already, worsening of that breathing condition, worsening of allergies. Sometimes people view allergies as being, a very sort of personal, I'm allergic to ragweed, or I'm allergic to grass, or to tree nuts, or something that is, something unique to me. But the reality is that many of us have allergies. It is a very common condition, and it doesn't matter what you're allergic to. If you're in the presence of volatile chemicals, they can make that allergy worse. They can irritate those same mucous membranes that are activated and irritated already because of the allergy. And so it works together. It works against you in a way, and makes it worse. So it really does, these volatile chemicals really do have an impact on a lot of people. And so I want to, a lot of what I might say today may sound like it has to do with children, but the fact is that these are true really for children and staff. And I'll talk in a little bit about how it may actually be worse for the staff who are actually using some of the products. And so which of the scented products are used in childcare? A lot of the things that we talked about, especially the personal care, I hope that people aren't really bringing hairspray into the childcare environment. But what are the scented products in childcare that that you've been aware of or you've seen people use?
I'm reading them out. Bleach, Fabuloso,
Mhm.
Pine Sol, disinfectants, air fresheners, hand sanitizer. Thank you.
That's great. Those are all correct, and they are very important to our discussions today. If you think about those, that list of products, you know that they all smell a little different, and sometimes one brand of a product comes in 5 different smells, and so those are 5 different fragrances at least that differentiate them. But the fragrance is not the only bad actor in some of these cleaning products and air deodorizers, fresheners, all that stuff. There are a number of other chemicals of different classes. And so although we just mentioned irritation and we're focused on the lung and asthma and all of that, there's another group of organs that I think it's very important to recognize. And these are more hidden in the sense that when you encounter one of these volatile organic chemicals or the cleaning products in general, you may not know that you are being affected and that the endocrine system is affected. Your endocrine glands are all glands that produce hormones. Hormones are the way one organ talks to another and tells it what to do to help keep us healthy and safe. And so if you look at this image, I'm sure you're familiar with the thyroid gland that regulates our metabolism and our growth. The adrenal gland that actually makes sure that we have a blood pressure, a good blood pressure, and that we don't pass out when we stand up. The um, reproductive glands, the ovaries and the testes, that regulate our ability to have children and also to mature, normal development and maturation. The pituitary gland that also regulates growth. And so there are a lot of very important glands in our body. And when we say that a chemical can be an endocrine disrupting chemical, it means that it can actually mimic one of the hormones. In other words, look a lot like it and act a lot like it and make the body feel as though it has extra of that. Or it can go to a place where it might block the production of that hormone that we need. And either way, it is disrupting the endocrine system. And neither of those, processes are good. Our bodies are really a finely honed, finely tuned instruments that really work great when they're not disrupted. And so there is so much research that needs to be done yet to fully understand how these various chemicals can and do impact all of these different glands. We really don't have a lot of information about it. We just know that many of the chemicals can affect them, and we know that that is not ideal. So we mentioned that allergy is another important contributor to child illness. Allergy is very common. Volatile organic chemicals can cause and worsen allergy. It can lead to stuffy, runny noses, sneezing, itchy skin, red, itchy eyes. And when the congestion is significant, in other words, when it's a lot, and when you have it over multiple days, you end up getting fluid dripping down the back of your throat. Most often when you're lying down at night, I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but you might feel okay during the day, and then you lie down at night and you're coughing all night. Well, that's because of a postnasal drip, the dripping from the sinuses down the back of the throat. And that is a sign of allergy, of fluid accumulation during the day as a result of allergy. And a recurrent postnasal drip like that can cause asthma. It can be a cause of asthma. So it is a reason to not want to have untreated allergies in anyone, a child or an adult. And so what is asthma? It's a chronic inflammatory disease of the airways. Our lungs have airways that are start at the back of our throat with a trachea going into bronchi and then breaking up further into smaller airways that bring air as we breathe in into the lungs and then into the blood that goes around to the rest of the body. The airways constrict when they're in the presence of some kind of a trigger when people have asthma, whether it's an irritant trigger like a chemical or an allergen trigger like maybe pollen. An asthma attack involves the closure of those airways and it restricts air movement in the lungs. It's not a curable condition, but if it's well controlled by medicine, people live without too much trouble. This is a graphic of the airways. And as you can see on the right, a nice big open airway. And on the left, a very constricted airway with a lot of fluid in it. And that really is part of that inflammation that happens in the airways, also as part of asthma. And so you could imagine how much harder it would be to breathe if most of your airways looked like the one on the left when you were used to them looking like the one on the right. So that's a big change, and that's what happens in asthma. So I don't want to lead you to believe that the only asthma triggers are the chemicals that we use in childcare centers. There are lots of asthma triggers, and some of these can affect a lot of people, and some are pretty specific to individual people. Often when children get very upset, that can trigger an asthma attack. When they're sick and they have a cold, that can trigger an asthma attack. Really hot temperatures, really cold temperatures, all kinds of volatile organic chemicals, including perfumes, whether they be in cleaning products or in regular perfume that we choose to use. Exercise does it for some children, and some children are allergic to animals and pollen from trees. So there are some early warning signs that someone is having trouble, an asthma attack. They may have coughing or sneezing, itchy, watery eyes. And if they have a rescue medication that they're supposed to be using, honestly, this is the best time to use it because this is the time when it would have the best effect. Um, some kids, though, don't have like that traditional sort of respiratory coughing kind of sneezing, wheezing sort of signs. They instead get like a headache, they get cranky, they get really tired. So you kind of have to watch. It may not be those obvious signs in a child with asthma. Later warning signs are really when they start having actual wheezing, when you hear noises with breathing, and it can be breathing in or breathing out or both. Tightness, a sense of tightness in the chest and difficulty breathing, a lot of coughing. These are really concerning and should be watched closely. When we get very concerned that someone can actually have a serious asthma attack and risk losing their life, risk death actually, and we do still have a couple of deaths in this country every year. It's that very fast breathing, a very high heart rate. Children get pale or blue. They feel like they're using all the muscles in their chest to breathe. They tend to raise their shoulders and put their arms out so that they are actually physically moving their chest themselves in a way. They can't even walk or talk. These are life-threatening concerns and need to call 911. Other than the acute event, every time children have an asthma exacerbation, it doesn't just affect them. It affects really their whole family. There's the medical care. Well, someone takes them for medical care. Might be their parent, might be another family member. But whoever is doing it, they're missing work or they're missing whatever else they were supposed to be doing. They're having to pay another child care provider because they had to go to the ER, something like that. There's the costs of the medicine, the costs of the care, the lost work by parents, the lost schooling that children have, and the social isolation that they feel every time they can't keep up with their peers and really just can't see their peers. They have to stay home because they're sick. Now, I'd like to turn from the children to actually the workers. If you're using a product, generally you would have a higher airborne exposure than children would. This can worsen asthma and allergies. Whoops, sorry. Let me go back. Headaches in adults, red or burning eyes, and can also cause nosebleeds. Skin exposure can be worse than children because you're actually using the product. It can cause dermatitis, can actually cause skin burns, and can sensitize the skin so that any future use will lead to an allergic rash. Protecting yourself is pretty specific to what you're using, but you always want to use safer products, and my colleague's going to tell you more about that in just a minute. Always want to wear eye protection or a face shield. Wear gloves that are rated for chemicals, preferably long gloves, because just because you keep something off your hands, your forearms are still at risk. Wear long sleeves and a rubber apron if you can. If you somehow got chemicals spilled on you, you want to remove those clothes immediately and shower. Wash off that area of skin that was coated in chemical. You want to minimize spraying and instead use a cloth or a mop that's dipped in a bucket instead. Ventilate the space by creating a cross draft if possible, or pointing a fan out or away from the area that you're cleaning to move fumes away and outside. Always turn on bathroom fans when you're cleaning a bathroom, and always wash your hands after removing gloves, because it's surprising. Sometimes chemicals can get through or get in. And so signs that you might experience that your symptoms are related to an exposure might be dermatitis when you're using certain products. And if you've never experienced dermatitis, it can be a redness, a bumpiness of the skin. Sometimes people experience it as painful, sometimes it's itchy. But all of those can, everyone reacts a little differently. If you have worsening asthma after cleaning, and that can include coughing, sneezing, wheezing, any of that, that could be a sign that you are having symptoms related to an exposure. If you ever get burns on the skin, that is not okay. It means you're not adequately protected. If you are wearing gloves, the gloves are not right. If you weren't wearing gloves, next time, make sure you do. And with that, I'd like to ask you all to follow us on social media. There may be other topics that are of interest. We certainly do a lot of work around all kinds of children's health topics and working with children. I know you care about them deeply. So here is our social media, and don't hesitate to contact me directly through Women for a Healthy Environment. They have my contact information, or look up the Philadelphia Regional Center for Children's Environmental Health, and I'm readily available on from our webpage. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I would be happy to take any questions that you might have. Are there any in the chat so far? Pacola, you are on mute.
Sorry, I apologize. Thank you, Dr. Howarth. We do have one question from Miss Harris. I will unmute you so you can ask.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi. Great information, and thank you very much for sharing. So one of the things that came up as you were going through your presentation, and I'm not sure if I missed it, but when we have children who are asthmatic or anything like that, what do you recommend as it relates to during the times that we're cleaning and we may not know that these products that we're using can be triggering for them? So normally we like clean when the kids are down sleeping, but I don't know if that could be something that is triggering once they wake up, because they kind of like subconsciously took it in when they were napping. So what do you suggest for things like that?
Yeah, I think my colleague will go into a fair amount about that, and I think using the safer products that she'll talk about is the key. You want to make sure that you're using things that are less likely to cause those kind of reactions, because children don't have to be awake in order to take in these chemicals. And they breathe even when they're sleeping, and that breathing, even though it's certainly less air that they take in when they're sleeping, it still can be significant for a child with asthma. So you absolutely do want to make sure that products are the safest they can be, diluted appropriately, not used in anything other than what's recommended. And then also, to the extent that you can, defer cleaning to times when children aren't there, that's great. But I do know some cleaning has to happen when they're there. I think I'll stop there and just ask you to stay tuned to the second half of our presentation today. Anyone else?
So there was another one in the chat. Sorry, I'm scrolling. It says, we use bleach in our centers. What cleaner would you suggest to use? So similar to that, I believe that Paige will talk about that next. So stay tuned.
Yeah, if there are any questions around health impacts or that's really my lane, and the rest I certainly don't want. I've seen Paige's presentation; it's very good, and you will learn a lot. And don't want to preempt any of that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Howarth. So we'll wait to see if anyone else thinks of some more questions, and if they do, I will definitely ask. So while we transition to our next speaker, we have a few poll questions for you regarding Dr. Howarth's presentation. So let me pull those up for you all to fill out. Okay, that should be hopefully in front of your face. I'll give you about 2 minutes to fill this out.
Pacola, Katrina in the chat mentioned she can't see anything.
Oh,
Katrina, are you on a phone? That might be an issue.
yeah. So the poll should just, yes, that's probably why. You might have to like
Okay.
swipe to the side on your phone to make the poll come up.
If you can't see it, also don't feel
It's
pressured
okay.
to, yeah.
So I could read the questions were children breathe less air than adults per body weight and so are less vulnerable to chemicals in the air. True or false? Yeah, false. Good. That is false.
That's false. Yes.
Good job, everyone. Then the second question we had was, which of the following can cause an asthma attack? Oh, air pollution, fragrances, animal dander, or all of the above?
All of the above.
Good job, everybody. And then endocrine disrupting chemicals can affect the glands that make hormones in the body. Childcare workers should always use goggles, gloves, and have long sleeves when working with cleaning chemicals. True or false?
True.
True in there. Thank you, everybody. Okay, wonderful. So again, I want to thank you so much, Dr. Hopper, for that insightful presentation. We learned a lot from it. And if anyone reaches out to us with follow-up questions, we'll be sure to pass along that information.
Great. And I'm staying for the rest of the time. So if anyone thinks of anything, I'm here.
Wonderful. So our next speaker is Paige Kizior, who is a healthy learning coordinator at Women for a Healthy Environment. Paige works closely with early learning centers to ensure that environments in which children and staff spend their days are both safe and healthy. In the second half of our webinar, Paige will dive into what constitutes as green cleaning practices. She will discuss how many products that are marketed as green can contribute to air, water, and soil pollution, as well as the issues that Marilyn mentioned, like asthma. So without further ado, here's Paige. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is having a good afternoon. I'm going to get my session pulled up here. There you are. All right. So today I will be talking the green cleaning side, and as Pacola mentioned, about a lot of the products that are used in early childcare centers and how we can choose which ones would be better off. So quick learning objectives that I like to share, that we are going to be identifying proper procedures when it comes to cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting materials and services in the classroom, and understand the importance in creating a safe environment that support young children's learning and development. So I do have a few questions that I always like to ask before going into the session. So there are 3 that popped up here. Why do we clean? What do you think of when you hear green and green cleaning? And what are some challenges you face when cleaning in your day-to-day job? So feel free to pick one of those questions to answer. Don't feel as though you have to, I want you to answer all of them in the chat, maybe even just take some time to think about your day, write down what it could look like, things like that.
We have one response in the chat. It says they clean to minimize the spread of germs.
Yeah, that is a big one, because we all know how many germs children carry and how quickly that they can get sick as soon as they enter the classroom.
We have another one. We clean to minimize germs and keep a safe and healthy environment. Safety is our #1 priority, and so children should be safe always.
Love to hear it. Yes, I agree. Always need to think about the children's safety.
Okay, we have another one. Avoid allergies. And also, green cleaning is using more natural products or less harmful. Another green cleaning one. Green cleaners are environmentally less offensive.
All right, I'll give about 1 or 2 more minutes to let everyone take some time. I do just want to mention, when I held this session earlier this week, when it came to some challenges that early childhood educators faced when cleaning, was of course the children being in the room, not allowing maybe the disinfectant to stay on the surface as long as it needs to. We'll get more into that as well, but those are just some challenges that early childcare educators face when it comes to cleaning.
And we had one other challenge to add, someone threw in the chat. The challenge is that staff believe bleach is the only disinfectant.
Yes, we will definitely be getting into that more further into the session. But yes, bleach, ever since I've been in the classroom, bleach was always used as a disinfectant, bleach water mixtures. But we're definitely going to supply you some ideas on what else to use rather than bleach and water mixtures. So with the term green cleaning, it is a method of cleaning that prioritizes using products and equipment that is safer for your health, the building occupants' health, which would be the children, and the environment. Green cleaning is just as effective as traditional cleaning, if not more so. It just requires a different approach. So what is green cleaning and what does it look like in our schools? So green cleaning involves using cleaning products formulated to minimize impact on human health and the environment by eliminating potential toxic ingredients. So we're cleaning for our health, we're cleaning for the environment, and we're cleaning to be effectively and safe. So current procedures and procedures are not necessarily bad, but newer technology and processes can make it possible for us to clean more effectively, efficiently, and with less impact on health and the environment. So we want to focus on the efficient cleaning when it comes to our cleaning procedures. Here you'll see a couple bubbles. These are the important parts of when it comes to a green cleaning program. So we're looking at green cleaning purchasing policy, which could look like what cleaning products you're going to want to buy and always have on hand. The custodial staff buy-in. So this part is more so if a cleaning crew comes into your childcare center, if you hire someone outside that comes in and cleans, this could look like a discussion about what products they use. Are the products third-party certified? And then also creating like I said, mentioned the green cleaning purchasing policy. You can share with the cleaning crew as these are what you want them to use because they're the safer option for the children and the environment. So if the cleaning crew isn't aware of what products they use, this could just be an easy start to a conversation of, okay, well, I was just in this session, we talked about these kind of cleaning products. How can we work on getting these products to be used in our center? Administrative support. So your admin, your director, owner, everyone being on board about a green cleaning program. Training and professional development. These sessions that you're attending right now, great information, we always want to share what's best, the best practices, things like that to keep you guys up to date. Green cleaning products and equipment, and consistent adoption of best practices. So we want to consistently use best practices to help with the overall sustainability of your classroom and the center or home-based center you work in. We want to continue to use all-purpose cleaners, disinfectants that are third-party certified, microfiber cloths, and refillable cleaning bottles. And we always want to remember, cleaning is our first line of defense. So it is important to be careful when it comes to interpreting vague or generic claims on products. So these claims can include environmentally friendly, eco-safe, or greenwashing. So third-party certified products contain safer ingredients for human health and the environment. So in this first line of defense, we're thinking about the children's health, the student health, and cleaning for them, because acute and chronic health effects do affect children and them coming to school, them being able to learn, their behavior, things like that. So when we use cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting chemicals, we can breathe them into our lungs and absorb them through our skin. So when these chemicals affect our health right away, it is called an acute effect. So when the child is having an asthma attack. But some chemicals get stored in our body through small amounts of repeated exposure over time. And these chronic exposures can cause cancer or other diseases, such as asthma years later. And then we're also wanting to think about green cleaning and our own health, the staff health, because green cleaning can positively impact your health. I know we talk a lot about children having asthma and respiratory diseases and them being absent from school and how that can affect them socially and developmentally. But we also have to think about ourselves when it comes to the classroom. So staff are also at risk of developing and experiencing asthma-related problems from cleaning chemicals. So as we mentioned before, children have acute and chronic effects from the toxic cleaning chemicals. So can you as staff. So when adults are exposed to these toxic chemicals, you can experience chemical burns, serious injury to the eyes, skin, or lungs, headaches, central nervous system effects, even asthma, cancer, reproductive and developmental toxicity, and endocrine disruption. So green cleaning programs not only help in reducing absenteeism of students, but also among staff. So as we know, if the staff is absent, if us as teachers are absent, it's hard for the students to come in and learn because we're not there in the classroom, and everyone knows how short-staffed early childcare centers are right now. So we want to make sure that everyone is taking care of themselves and their health. So moving on right now to cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting. So cleaning is done with water and a cleaning product like soap and scrubbing. Cleaning does not kill bacteria, viruses, or fungi, which are generally referred to as germs. Cleaning products are used to remove the germs and dirt and other organic material by washing them down the drain. So we just want to remember, cleaning is not enough. it removes about 99% of germs. And when we're using microfiber cleaning tools, those are the best. And then sanitizing. Sanitizing reduces the number of germs on hard surfaces or objects to a safer level, so at least 99.9%. Sanitizing products should state on their label the surfaces they are intended to be used on. And sanitizers are used on food preparation and contact surfaces, mouth toys, and pacifiers. So you just want to remember the hard surfaces and make sure that they are being dried properly. And like when we sanitize mouth toys and pacifiers, if children are still in the room and you are towards your end of your day, you want to get a head start on that cleaning, as I know many of us want to do. We just want to make sure that those are kept out of the way of children so they don't accidentally mouth a toy that's been already sanitized, or a pacifier, because that can cause some issues and we don't want any of that. And then our disinfecting. So as we all know, a commonly used disinfectant in early childcare settings is bleach and water mixture. And the reason bleach is a commonly used disinfectant is because it's inexpensive and effective at killing germs when used properly. But there is a problem when using bleach, but we'll follow up on that later on. So disinfecting kills 99.999% of germs on surfaces or objects if allowed to sit visibly wet or dwell on the surface for the recommended amount of dwell time. So the disinfectant must stay on the surface for this dwell time, but you also might see dwell time on the label as kill time or contact time. So dwell time refers to the duration a surface must remain wet with a sanitizer or disinfectant to work effectively. And I do understand this, the dwell time could always be a challenge in childcare centers because they just ate at the table, we need to clean it, disinfect it, and get it ready for them to use for small group. But we just have to remember, putting that disinfectant on that table and then wiping it off right away is not killing the germs. So we have to remember we want to keep it on for that dwell time so it's most effective. So we want to use disinfectant for changing tables, bathroom sinks, and toilets, high-risk areas such as doorknobs, cabinet handles, and drinking fountains. And we want to remember that disinfectants require the removal of soils from surfaces. So we have to be sure to thoroughly clean the surface area, unless the product is specifically designed for cleaning and disinfecting, because there are other products out there that do both. So you just want to make sure that the label reads that it is for cleaning and disinfecting. So to make the most out of our green cleaning products that we're using, we want to give it time. So for tough stains and heavy soiling on tables or anywhere else, we want to allow the products to sit on the surface for at least 2 minutes. So the product can allow the breakdown of the stain and it'll be easier to clean off. Don't let the bubbles fool you. Many products have that foaming or bubble action that it does, but it doesn't, even if you don't see that foam or that bubble, they're still working. It's just a nice little add-on that a lot of products put into their cleaning products so you think that it's getting cleaned. And then no smell is good. So the products don't often have a color or an odor. Traditional products have added colors and fragrances that can cause throat and skin irritation and breathing difficulty. So we'll talk about that as well later on, about the colors and fragrances you see in cleaning products. That's not adding to the cleaning. That's just adding, as I mentioned, the irritation that you can have in your throat and your skin when you spray it. And then using personal protective equipment, so our PPE. When we're using green cleaning products, they are safer than traditional ones, but it is still suggested that you wear PPE such as like aprons, gloves, wearing long sleeves, and even having a mask on, because that's still protecting you from the harmful dust and products that spills and splashes. I did see something come down in the chat. Pacola, did someone?
Yes. Yeah, there was a question. So this is from Melanie. It says some products specify which germs they kill. Do we need to pay attention to that list?
Yes. Pacola, also feel free to jump in on
Yes,
that as
of course.
well.
Yeah, so I think it is important to pay attention to that list. It will list whatever the bacterias or fungi are, so you know what you are actually killing. Yeah, so I mean, it depends what you're looking to kill for sure. Thank you for that question.
And I know a lot of products now, you see the commercials, they kill the COVID-19 vaccine, they kill the COVID-19 virus. It attacks these germs, these fungi. So as to go off of what Pacola said, yeah, just make sure that you're seeing what you want to buy, and hopefully it has what you want to clean the surfaces and kill all the germs and viruses. So how do we make green cleaning our reality? When I do this session in person, I have handouts. I supply a green cleaning inventory template just to show you how, if you're a childcare center, keeping track of the materials you have, like all-purpose cleaners, disinfecting wipes, microfiber cloths, things like that, just to make sure that you are keeping up with supplies and making sure you're not running out when you're in need of them. And then I also provide a model policy, a green, healthy, and asthma safer schools cleaning model policy. It is just a simple write-up of that you can add to your handbook, or you can share with families of your cleaning policy in your classroom to help them understand we're using more green cleaning products, we're being more eco-friendly, eco-healthy in our classroom, and these are things that we want to use. I don't know why that popped up.
Sorry, that was me. Sorry, I apologize.
No, you're fine. So we want to prepare our childcare center or our home for our green cleaning reality. We want to assess the products that we're buying. We want to introduce green equipment and supplies, adopt green cleaning techniques and practices, and share the responsibility. When I come up to this step, share the responsibility, I always like to share that when it comes to cleaning, it should be everybody's job. It just not should be one job of one teacher. Sharing the responsibilities between the two teachers who could be in the classroom, even with your director, your assistant director, making sure everyone is on the same page and sharing the responsibility of keeping your center and or your classroom eco-friendly, eco-healthy, and safe for the children. There we go. So now we're going to talk about some of the product side of green cleaning. When it comes to cleaning products, companies are not required to list ingredients on the containers of cleaning products. So a majority of cleaning ingredients have not been tested for safety, and we want to be aware and avoid products with these signal words such as poison, danger, warning, and caution. So each of these signal words kind of have a little explanation with them. When it comes to danger, when you see that on a cleaning product, it means it may be highly toxic when ingested, or may reduce irreversible eye or skin damage if used without proper protective gear. Warning is moderately toxic if ingested, or may cause irreversible skin or eye irritation. Oh, sorry, may cause reversible. Warning is reversible. Danger is irreversible. And then caution, it's slightly toxic. It may be It may have some ingredients in it that you have to be cautious about. It may not. And then there's no signal word at all, which means it is least toxic. So then we have those tricky labels and our difficult decisions when it comes to choosing cleaning products. So the words natural, non-toxic, and green that appear on product labels are unregulated by the government. And researchers have found that products labeled green often have as many toxic chemicals as conventional cleaning products. So when it comes to choosing the cleaning products that you want to use in your childcare center or your classroom, I'm going to share with you the labels that you should be finding on the bottles of your all-purpose cleaners and disinfectants that you want to pick. But a few health effects that we can see: that about 53% of cleaning products contain ingredients known to harm the lungs. 22% contain chemicals linked to asthma. And as Dr. Howarth mentioned, asthma is a chronic inflammatory disorder of the airways and the lungs that result in wheezing, coughing, chest tightness, and trouble breathing. So once a person has asthma, exposures to those triggers, exposures to triggers, can cause subtle to extreme episodes of asthma attacks. And these triggers can look like household dust or dust mites, pets, cockroaches, mold, or cigarettes or vape smoke. And then the environmental effects. So many chemicals we use to clean, sanitize, and disinfect are harmful to human health and the environment. So many of these cleaners, sanitizers, disinfectants you see marketed as green, they're still impacting our environment by polluting the air, our water, our soil. They're also contributing to the amount of waste that we make. It creates large amounts of waste in landfills because these containers cannot be recyclable. So if you can't recycle it, it's just ending up in a landfill and just causing more harm to the air pollution and just everything around, entering the water, the soil, things like that. Clean isn't a smell. I've heard a lot as I've started this position that people, if you can't smell it, it's not clean, which is not true. So fragrances are found in most cleaning and sanitizing and disinfecting products, and they contain chemicals called volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, as we mentioned in our first part. So these products that have a fragrance contain additional chemicals that may pose health risks and are unnecessary. So the health effects of fragrance chemicals in air fresheners and fragrance cleaners, sanitizers, and disinfectants can irritate lungs, trigger asthma, give you headaches, and cause allergic skin reactions. Higher levels of some fragrance chemicals have been linked to reproductive problems in women. And as we know, early child care is predominantly a women-based career. So, and then some fragrance chemicals have been linked to certain types of cancer. So even unscented or fragrance-free products may contain fragrances which are added to mask the smell of chemicals in the product. But when it comes down to buying a product, if you see fragrance-free, that is what you are going to want to go for. Nevertheless, as I mentioned, it's always better to buy a fragrance-free product. Consider using fragrance-free non-chlorine bleaches containing hydrogen peroxide. So an alternative to bleach could just be hydrogen peroxide. You get a hydrogen peroxide bottle, you screw on a spray top, and you can spray the surfaces, and that's your disinfectant. The dwell time of hydrogen peroxide is about 5 minutes compared to a lot of other disinfectants where the dwell time could be around 10 minutes. So thinking effectively of the children in your classroom and how quickly you have to switch between areas and centers, hydrogen peroxide and that dwell time is the best alternative. But there are other products out there besides hydrogen peroxide that if you look in the ingredients, as long as you can see hydrogen peroxide, that's what you want to go for. So what's the problem with bleach? As we all know, exposure to bleach can make asthma worse in those who already have asthma. And workers as yourselves who are exposed to bleach can develop asthma from long-term exposure to bleach. Bleach can irritate the eyes and skin, and children are at greater risk from breathing bleach vapors because their lungs are still developing. And I remember, I think there was a comment or a question in the chat as we were finishing up our first part about the measurements and the dilution. With bleach, it's like a quarter of a teaspoon to 1 part water. So you're not even supposed to be using that much bleach. So with as much water as you want to. So when it comes to bleach, we have to remember it has a short shelf life. So you should only purchase what you will use within 3 months. And these solutions are to be mixed daily. So, and bleach is neutralized by dirt and other organic materials. So it isn't very effective when used on a surface that hasn't been cleaned. So if you just need to quickly spray down a table, a center, if you're just using the bleach mixture, it's not being effective because that surface hasn't been cleaned yet. So you still have to take the time to clean it and then disinfect it. So as I mentioned, the labels that you want to look for when it comes to finding cleaning products and choosing safer cleaning products. So the first little label you see is Design for the Environment from the US EPA. So this program is the only program that can legally certify disinfecting products that are hazardous for human health and the environment in the US. So when you see this logo on an EPA registered disinfectant label, you can be assured that the product meets strict EPA criteria for efficiency and effects on human health and the environment. So as you see these other 3 logos, Green Seal certified, Safer Choice, and Eco logo. These are third-party certified labels that show you these are third-party certified labels that are put on products. If the product does not carry a third-party certification logo, you might want to look for the following: the ingredients listed on the label, no signal words such as danger. You want to make sure it's non-aerosol, no overwhelming chemical odor, they're fragrance-free, and they're dye-free. So again, we want to look for products that are third-party certified. When choosing a safer sanitizer, look for the signal word caution rather than danger or warning. Because as I mentioned earlier, caution means that low toxicity. The caution category has varying degrees of safety. So some products are very safe while others still may contain 1 or more ingredients of concern. But nevertheless, if you have to pick a cleaning product, stay away from the signal words danger or warning. When selecting and using a disinfectant, look for the dilution rate of the product and make sure it is mixed correctly and what germs does it kill. So back to that question before, you still want to look on you want to look on disinfectants, what germs it kills. So in our non-aerosol cans, because aerosol and pressurized cans release a fine mist, which can create small particles create small particles that can get trapped in airways and impact air quality. And then choosing our fragrance-free and dye-free, because components of a fragrance are not always required to be listed on labels. Fragrances can contain hundreds of hidden ingredients, many of which have been associated with a host of health issues. And plus, fragrance cleaning products can also contribute to the indoor air pollution. And when we're choosing dye-free, it's because the color in a cleaning solution doesn't typically contribute to its effectiveness. So that Fabuloso, it comes in purple. The color of that cleaning product, just because it's purple does not mean that it cleans any more effectively than any other solution that's clear. So, and then we also want to remember some colorants commonly used in cleaners have been linked to asthma, skin sensitization, and irritation. So here are some simple solutions that you can use to create a greener classroom. Have make do-it-yourself recipes. As Women for a Healthy Environment, we do have a one-pager that can be sent out with DIY recipes for you to use. And we want to use microfiber cloth and mops because these remove organic matter such as dirt, oil, and grease, as well as germs from surfaces. It's washable and reusable, and it reduces landfill waste. We want to look for products with fewer ingredients. Use natural air fresheners. So you can mix white vinegar with hot water or baking soda with hot water, which is a great natural air freshener. We just want to make sure that it stays out of reach of children. Allow enough dwell time on surfaces. As we mentioned earlier, these disinfectants have a dwell time. So as I mentioned, the natural disinfectant is hydrogen peroxide, which kills 99% of bacteria, mold, and viruses such as Salmonella and E. coli. And the dwell time for that, again, is 5 minutes to disinfect. So you want to make sure it stays on that surface for 5 minutes before wiping it off. And then purchasing a water filter and pitcher, just to make sure that the water that the children are getting is filtered. That's more of a concern of lead in pipes, things like that, but it can also help with any of the dust around the sink area when you do fill up cups of water. Getting water from a water pitcher is just a safer choice. Do we have any questions before we move on to our fun little review game? All right, so I'm going to stop sharing real quick. Oh, I don't see why not. I can definitely share out the PowerPoint. Can you discuss hypo? Oh, Pacola, can you share a little bit on the hypo?
I'm not familiar with hypochlorous acids. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, we can.
We could definitely look into it and get back to you. Let's see. Adele asked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually never heard of that. If you don't mind sharing in the chat, what are something, or Dr. Howarth, if you've heard of that before?
It's a weak acid that I wasn't aware was in cleaning products usually, but it may be.
Okay, we'll definitely look into that for you. Fun fact, these supplies are not expensive. Many people do assume the fact that a lot of these supplies are expensive, but as I mentioned, you can just use hydrogen peroxide, finding a bottle of that at your local pharmacy. There we go. I don't want to say any names. Finding a big bottle of that probably runs you what, like $2-3 now. And then we Women for a Healthy Environment have a storefront that we can definitely share out the link for that to show some of the supplies that we provide to childcare centers that we've chosen because they have the third-party certified logo and just are better options than other supplies. Yeah, of course. All right, I'm going to pull up our fun little game. If you are on a phone, it might be difficult because it has a QR code. So don't feel if you have to join. But if everyone can see my screen, there is a nice little QR code. I found out about this website not too long ago, and I was like, oh, we'll try it. So it's called Slido, and then you scan the QR code, and then you type in this little number, and then I have to actually start it. I don't know. I'm also very new to this. I'm used to Cahoots, but unfortunately, Kahoot was not available. So please feel free, if anyone is joining and they have any issues, please let me know. This is a first timer thing. So
it says that there's no active poll, so it may
there
need
we
to
go.
restart it.
Let's try this. There we go.
There we go. Thank you.
And now let's try it. Again, first time. We're working on it. I'll work on getting a Kahoot for next time. Perfect. Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate it. I know we have, I'll give it one more minute because I know we have a few more participants than we have here. And we can, of course, if you can't join, we can, of course, read the question out loud and you can answer in the chat. So I'm going to get started. True or false? Green cleaning is more expensive. False. It is false. Green cleaning is not more expensive. It could sometimes, even in the case, be a little bit cheaper than when you're going out and buying some of those other products. So let's see if I hit this one. False. Okay. What is a benefit of green cleaning? Better indoor air quality, higher costs, less effective cleaning, or more toxic fumes? All right. Yes, better indoor air quality. Good job, everybody. Okay. What does not come? Oh, I didn't talk about green cleaning kits. Okay. So in a green cleaning kit, what does not come in one? Baking soda, microfiber cloth, bleach, or vinegar? This might be a tough one because I did not mention our green cleaning kits, but just think about what would come in it and what wouldn't. It's bleach. We do include baking soda in our green cleaning kits because baking soda is considered a more natural form of cleaning. All right, true or false? Green cleaning can reduce asthma triggers. Let's see. The answer is true. Good job, everybody. Yep, it can reduce our asthma triggers that we see in children and even ourselves as adults. Last question. What is the main goal of green cleaning? More waste, higher toxicity, a healthier environment, or less effectiveness? Yes, a healthier environment. Yes, thank you, everyone. Good job. Yeah, you guys did amazing. I'm glad that all worked out. But yeah. Well, that is the end of my part. You're muted, Pacola.
Thank you, Paige. So I have a couple of discussion questions for everybody to hopefully get you thinking some more. And maybe that'll get you guys to think of some more questions to ask our two speakers. So you could raise your hand or put your answer in the chat, whichever you prefer. But my first question, what are some barriers that you all find when it comes to buying these third-party certified cleaning product, like the EPA logos? Places to purchase. That's a good one. Accessibility, price, budget, price. Okay. So when you say price, I guess my question is, where do you all buy your products from, usually? Target, Amazon, I'm gonna give someone talking capabilities. If I could find it. Walmart, Sam's Club, vendors. Okay. Okay, so yeah, Sam's Club is always good to buy in bulk. Definitely going to the vendors where they can also hopefully get you cheaper prices as well. BJ's is a good one. Walmart. So we mentioned
I have a question. I have a follow-up question to that. So when I hear vendor, it sounds to me like possibly there could be a scenario where a childcare center is part of a large group of childcare centers, and that they may have relationship with particular vendors. And so I'm wondering if anyone has experienced a problem with asking for a particular product that they wanted to have, and their vendor not offering it as something that they have. Has that happened to anybody? Okay, good. All right, good. Well, if it did, I mean, I think it's reasonable to request that your vendors that you're working with look for safer choice products. In some ways, you can educate them about the fact that because if they're not offering it to you, they're not offering it to other people that they work with too. So, you might actually be having quite a big impact if you can educate anyone who, may not know about it already.
Pacola, I'm gonna share in the chat now our link to our storefront for Amazon. I do keep this up to date, so if anyone has any suggestions, please let me know. And then we do have a hand raised.
I will allow her to talk. Cydia.
Sadia, how you doing? Good afternoon, everyone. I did during the pandemic, I had stopped using bleach because I was finding myself choking a lot. So what I started doing was buying cases of the Perel sanitizing and disinfecting spray from Amazon, and it really works good and it's safe.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes, that is a big one that when I work with early childhood centers, it's in our storefront, and I really try to get that out to them as much as possible. So thank you for sharing your experience. I really appreciate that.
So I'm not sure if everyone is clear about exactly what your storefront is. Did you want to say a word about that?
Of course. So our storefront is pretty much just a website where it has options. So on there, there's there's all-purpose cleaners, sanitizers, disinfectants that Women for a Healthy Environment has decided to be the safest, and they also have the third-party certified logo on them. But these are the ones that we choose to provide to child care centers, but also push out to them. I've also added other supplies on there like microfiber cloths, walk-off mats, and glass containers, because other things we like to talk about is the dust particles coming in from the outside, using those walk-off mats to brush your feet off on, yours and the children's, so those particles don't get inside the center. Glass containers, because we really don't want you using plastic containers to reheat food. And then, as I mentioned in the PowerPoint session, the microfiber cloths, because those are reusable and washable and eliminates waste from using paper towels and things like that.
And Paige, the not only do you have a list of products, but you actually have a place where people can get them, right? Do you have the links to the actual?
They all go to Amazon links.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're having trouble in local stores that you have, you can use this and get the links directly.
Yeah, and I know I believe the walk-off mat, Sadia, to answer your question, the walk-off mat is something we really push. It is a great opportunity to make sure that you're coming into the center and leaving any dirt that you might have brought in or the children might have brought in their shoes, just to help with when it comes to the pollution inside your building.
It's about the size of a regular entrance mat.
Yeah.
They're a rubber material, and you could like sweep them off as well. It's a very good hardy material. You could hose them down too.
Yeah, and a lot of the materials that are the links to the Amazon, they do come in bulk. But you can, of course, if you don't want to buy in bulk or you don't need that much product at one time, you can find options for just a purchase of like one bottle. We purchase everything off Amazon. That's where everything comes from. That's how we send it to childcare centers. Yeah.
So I had a follow-up discussion question based off of what Saidia mentioned. So she mentioned that since she switched to Purell, that she's noticed within herself that she doesn't get irritated as much. So I'm wondering if anybody else, if you were also using green cleaning practices or products in your facility, have you noticed changes in students or yourself as well? And maybe like reduced asthma episodes or less absenteeism, things like that. If you have, please share.
And if you haven't, maybe watch for it because you may actually see it if you actually think about it and look for it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm sure that is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Oh my goodness. But their own shoe, I can't even imagine. Yeah, putting their shoes on and off. Oh my goodness. Ugh.
So that leads me to my next question. Saidia, I feel like you have my questions already. So my next question is, what are steps that you take throughout the day to ensure that you have a clean facility while children are present?
Oh, we have a hand raised.
I didn't want to mute type so much, but typically we are like we have spit buckets for the children. When the toys they put inside their mouths, it goes into a separate bucket, and that bucket gets those toys clean so other children pick it up and put it inside their mouths. Obviously, every time they're eating, we're wiping off the tables right after or when they're playing. So we're constantly wiping off tables, constantly sweeping, mopping, and then getting professionally cleaned. We get professionally cleaned every other week. So the staff cleans every day, but then we get it professionally cleaned and air sanitized every 2 weeks.
What do you mean by air sanitize? What does that
So
mean?
so the cleaner comes and he has this machine that he sprays the stuff in the air to sanitize the chemicals in the air. You know how viruses are floating in the air sometimes. So we get it sprayed. It sprays the whole the air, the stuff here, so that we can minimize viruses and outbreaks. It really came established from COVID.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea.
Really?
No.
Okay.
Because first of all, it doesn't, I don't know what the format is that they're putting in the air, but if it's dwelling in the air for a long time, then it's also available for people to breathe. And that's, and if you think about it, if someone's got a virus, doing it once every 2 weeks is really not going to interrupt that transmission, because all the other days that they're there, they're transmitting it. So that the risk of that one time is not really worth the benefit of reduced transmission.
So even if we get it done on a Friday after the children leave and the children don't come back until Monday. So we actually don't have anybody inhale it, except the only people that's in here is the person that's spraying.
Yeah. Okay. So that may reduce the risk. I just don't. I'm not sure that that's the best use of your funds. I mean,
Fair enough.
there may be other things to do that would be of greater impact.
Okay.
Any viruses that would be in the air on Friday when you do that would certainly have settled out into the ground and probably no longer be transmissible by Monday.
Right. So if I get it sprayed on Friday.
No, I'm saying without the spray.
Oh, okay. 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 Well, outside of Lysol spray and stuff like that, whatever else you want to suggest, I'm open.
I don't think anything should be sprayed in the air. And I think all the cleaners that we're talking about are surface cleaners. I don't think there's a need to spray anything in the air for cleaning purposes.
So, Dr. Howarth, could you explain why what happens whenever those little small particles get in the air and how they could go into your lungs?
Well, the particles stay in the air for only a certain amount of time, right? And so if you have children and people in an environment, they're all sort of potentially with laughing and joking and coughing and sneezing, they're putting particles in the air, and they are available for exposure for other people for sure during that time. But then as soon as no one is in the environment, it over time, over a few hours, they settle out onto the ground. And viruses don't really live. These kind of respiratory viruses dry out pretty quickly, and so they don't remain available to infect people for an extended period of time. So although it's good to do routine cleaning, it's not necessary to remove them from the air with any regularity, like the questioner was suggesting. And again, Lysol is a surface cleaner. It's not an air cleaner. Lysol is if you would like to clean toilets or to clean basins or handles, Lysol is a surface cleaner to be used within a couple of inches of the surface. It's not to be sprayed out in the air. That's never a good plan.
Thank you.
Lysol specifically actually contains formaldehyde, which is a known human carcinogen.
Okay, we have another hand raised from Dia, so let me give her.
Hello. Like the young lady just was talking, I had bought one of the machines too during COVID time. And I had noticed too, I had stopped using it like that because while spraying it, you do be choking from the chemicals that's in it. So what I started doing was the disinfect spray that I would use from the Perel bottle. I just would pour some of that in there instead of using a solution that come with it, because that solution is very strong and it does last in the ear for a minute, because I would have to open up windows and put the ceiling fan on to use that. So
Yeah,
I had stopped using it, and I was doing it like once a week.
Yeah, again, there is no reason to do that, to put disinfectants in the air. It's not,
Yes.
it's not healthy, it's not a good, I know that there was some discussion about doing it during COVID, and we physicians were skeptical that it was not causing more harm than good at that time.
Okay.
And
Yeah, because I
now
would use the sanitizing spray, not disinfect, the sanitizing spray to put in the air.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. None of that belongs in the air. Those are disinfectant is intended for surfaces or for hands or for items. It's not intended to go in the air. If someone has a serious lung infection, the way we would deliver medicine into their lungs, because it's the way that medicine gets in the best, is to make an aerosol of it. So think about that, right? Anything that's an aerosol is the best possible way for it to get in your lungs. Do you want that in your lungs?
No.
No. Yeah, I don't want it in any of your lungs. And I, so aerosols in general are not ideal. If you feel the need to use a product that's in a spray, a pump spray rather than an aerosol, or anything that aerosolizes, that none of that's good, but a pump bottle creates larger droplets that drop to the ground quickly, and they don't stay in the air as long, and so you don't breathe as much of them in. So it's safer for people.
Okay.
Just as
Thank you.
effective
That's
as
good to
me.
know, because I think during COVID, a lot of providers, that's what we was doing. We was paying people to come in with the machines to do to sanitize the building and all that. So that's good to know.
And as you might imagine, there were a lot of people who were looking to capitalize on those opportunities.
Yeah, I think COVID was a time where people were like, use this because it's the best option. And then it just continued to be a thing because it was just something that people were seeing as effective, when, as Dr. Howarth is saying, it's not. We don't want anything in the air. We want to keep our surfaces clean.
I mean, the best way to keep the air as healthy as possible is to have good ventilation. So that's where we talk about increasing the MERV, MERV, of the filter that you have if you have a central ventilation system, making sure that you have the highest MERV filter of any that's possible for your ventilation system. If you don't have a central ventilation system, taking the opportunity when it's safe to have the windows open, to create cross ventilation, to use fans to ventilate space, to push sort of air out instead of in. And I think those are the things that probably will really reduce the and then also increasing the air changes per hour. So there are times with central ventilation systems when you can set it so that the fan is constantly running, regardless of if you're using heat or air conditioning, but the fan is constantly running, and that is increasing the air turnover, and that tends to clean the air too.
And I tried to push when Dr. Howarth was saying about windows being open, making sure that there's screens in those windows as well, making sure that we're keeping the children safe, and making sure that they can't reach windows. But even if you're cleaning after the children leave, and you don't have screens, making sure that those windows are open so you're getting the ventilation. I I had something else and now I can't remember. But yeah, we just want to make sure that you're staying safe and the children are staying safe.
Yeah, so we have a comment from Deirdre. I love everything that smells good, especially with dirty diapers. I try to put them out the trash as soon as possible. Sometimes I need something to get rid of the smell. Yeah, so we say no to fragrances for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
unfortunately.
if you put a dirty diaper out outside pretty promptly, that smell goes away fast. It really does. It really doesn't linger. And I guess the other thing is there are certain buckets that actually will keep the smells in. I know that that's an extra cost that may be an issue for some people, but there are buckets that I don't know what they do. They kind of like, as you're putting it in, it kind of closes up tightly.
Diaper genie.
Yeah,
Mhm,
thank
diaper
you.
genie.
Diaper
Okay,
genie.
thank you. Good. Yeah. And so, that could be helpful if you can't every time run out and take the, the diaper outside. But yeah, I think there are, there are things like baking soda that you can put in maybe containers near in that area, as long as it's out of reach of children. There are things that you can do that are natural absorbers, not fragrances that you put into the air, but absorbers of bad smells that I think could be useful.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier in my part, a natural fragrance was the vinegar in hot water or the baking soda in hot water. In some DIY recipes for that, it says about essential oils, adding those, but we try to also push against the essential oils, just keeping
Right.
it as natural as possible.
Yeah, I just want to point out the essential oils are another marketing term. It has no meaning. I believe that they very smartly used the word essential because there are things that we all know about, like essential minerals, essential dietary constituents, things like that. So that word essential makes it sound like it's something you need, but there is no such thing as a fragrance that we need. And so that essential oils, and I will say, the more study we've done on those, there are certain of them that are pretty toxic. So, and most of them have not been studied. So I wouldn't recommend that.
Picking up your one comment about the Department of Health giving out free air purifiers for early childhood education centers. That's Philadelphia.
Yeah, they were doing that in Philadelphia. I think they now have stopped doing that.
Yeah, it's back from 2023.
Yeah, they've stopped doing it. If you can use air purifiers, they certainly also do remove particulates. I mean, one of the things to think about in a childcare setting is if you have the windows open and there's air pollution outside, some of that air pollution comes in. Those particles are almost little taxis, if you will, for any bacteria and viruses that might be around. They adhere to the particles and then might be moved around the room a little bit more. So anything that decreases the particles, decreases the chemicals in the air, will be healthier for children. And so it is recommended to use those if you can afford them. The biggest cost is not in buying them, it's in maintaining the filters on a regular basis, because if the filter is clogged, it's not working, even if it's turned on.
So one other thing I'd like to mention, along with cleaning and having proper ventilation, if you are cooking in your center as well, you should also have proper ventilation. Probably not, frying, cooking steak or anything like that, but still anything that's making any amount of smoke come up, it's getting trapped in that center if you do not have a fan venting to the outside or a window open. So please keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, and if you have a gas stove, even just the gas being on does increase pollutants in the air. And so you need the fan on for that too. Sometimes people think that they only need the fan when they're frying food. If you have a gas range, you actually need it on the whole time you're using it. Nitrogen oxides are what comes out of the gas burning process that can be very worsening for asthma.
Hey, bye, Beverly. Do we have any other questions? I asked a lot of discussion questions. Do you all have any questions? Well, yeah, I was going to ask Paige if you could share the survey.
Yep. So I do have two things to share before we get going here. As Women for a Healthy Environment, we work with center. I'm not going to pull up a whole display of it, the presentation, but we do eco-healthy childcare endorsements. And here you will see a QR code to our interest form. So a childcare center that is endorsed is a provider who will create and maintain a childcare facility that is healthy and safe by reducing children's exposure to environmental hazards. We work with childcare centers on getting any cleaning products that they may need. We support in helping with the endorsement fees for this certificate. There is a Pro Solutions training course that goes along with this endorsement. It gives you 3 hours of PQOS credit, and then also ongoing technical assistance. So this is my part of Women for a Healthy Environment. So if this is something you're interested in, here's the QR code. I'm also going to put the link to the interest form in the chat. And then we have a feedback survey that we would like for everyone to complete. Here is the QR code, but again, we can put the link in the chat for people to access it. But we highly recommend, I can't think of the word, we highly would like for you to complete the feedback survey, provide us any information that you learned or anything that you would like to hear in future webinars. Is vinegar considered a disinfectant or sanitizer? That is a good question.
Sorry, I was typing that. So I think vinegar would actually be a cleaner. And hydrogen peroxide is what we talked about as the disinfectant.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would believe the vinegar would go in like a water, like a warm water mixture as a cleaner, as you mentioned, Pacola, as an all-purpose cleaner. And then also I forgot to mention this when cleaning, if you're mopping or cleaning a lot of surfaces, using 2 buckets is the best way. So having 1 bucket with your cleaning solution in it, and then 1 bucket that is just water that you're rinsing out of. So you're not wiping off the surface with the microfiber cloth and then putting all that dirty, all the dirty particles, all the germs and everything that you just wiped off into your bucket of cleaner. You're putting it into the water bucket, rinsing it off, and then going back.
Yeah, as Paige talked about before, the difference between a cleaner and a sanitizer is that the cleaner is really just like vinegar, is a weak acid, and so it is disrupting the particulate from the surface and allowing you to better and more easily remove like any of the dirt and grime and that kind of stuff. But when you in addition to that, there may be bacteria and viruses, and so you need something that's going to actually kill them to be the sanitizer, and that's where the peroxide comes in. That actually is something that kills living things, and so vinegar itself is not going to do that. But it is good at getting off, the dirt and the grime and almost like dislodging that connection of the dirt to the surface. It's good at that.
Yes, no, having a bucket with 2 separate bins is perfect. I know sometimes like those 2 buckets can run a little bit expensive because they think they're all fancy and stuff. So even just getting like 2 separate buckets is best. But yeah, no, whatever works best for you in your childcare center and for yourself as a teacher or a director or owner, whatever you may be. I also do want to mention at the end of our feedback survey, it does ask for your PD registry ID number. If that is something you are not aware of, you are not sure how to find it, please feel free to email me. I can support with that. I can also, if you provide your email address, I am able to look you up that way, but you will be getting PCOS credit for this session.
I have just put our center website in the chat, and I will also put in my email if you'd like to ask me any individual questions, not personal questions, individual questions.
Right. So we have people completing the survey. Thank you so much. So we are going to start to wrap up now. So I just want to say that as we have learned today, green cleaning is not just a trend, but it's a crucial step toward ensuring the health and well-being of the children in our care. And by adopting these practices, we protect their health today and contribute to a more sustainable future. So as we wrap up, I want to remind everyone of the importance of this information. And if you have any further questions or need additional resources, please do not hesitate to reach out. And I truly thank you all for participating. And thank you to our speakers.
Enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you everyone for coming. It was a great, I love interaction, and I know being online is sometimes hard to interact. So I appreciate everyone's willingness to interact with us today. Loved it.
Yes, thank you all. So just complete the survey, Velda. You were already registered. Oh, or maybe she means on PA keys. Does she mean on PA keys?
Zelda, can you explain that a little bit more?
No problem, Marilyn. Unmute her.
Yeah, hello?
Hello,
Hi,
yes.
Velda.
Yeah. No, it came up after the survey when I hit submit. It says event registration popped up.
Huh.
You
That's
completed
strange.
the survey, so you can just exit out.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
probably
you're
just
good.
something
Okay.
that. Yeah.
All right.
Have
Thanks
a
for
nice day,
Thank y'all.
Velda. Thank
Very
you.
interested. Okay, you too.
See ya.
Our certificate will come to the email.
You will see it. You won't get a certificate. You'll just see it in your PD registry account.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. Give me about. I always like to give people the threshold about 4 weeks for me to get it in.
Well, I'll be able to use this training as part of my 12 hours I need for state inspection.
Yep, you'll get it. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, not a problem.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. We have another question from Beverly. You can unmute.
Oh, I thought I unmuted. I'm sorry. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I missed the link for the survey and I missed that. So how do I go back and do that?
No problem.
Okay, and I did put my email address in there and I am connected with the PA keys and all of that stuff.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Yep, don't worry. I will make sure everyone, I am well aware of how important that credit is, so I will make sure everyone who needs it gets it.
All right, thank you.
Of
And
course.
the session was very, very informative. I enjoyed it.
We thank you for coming. We appreciate your participation.
All right, you're welcome. And I'm going to do this survey and I'm gonna log off now. You guys have a great day.
Thank
Thanks,
you
you
as
too.
well.
All right. Let me see if I can get that.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope. Well, I think we are good to head out now. Thanks, you
All
too,
right.
Saidia.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you guys so much for your participation.
Sure. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.